Dim debate. I completely forgot we were having another one. It seems like we just had one. We go from having no debates to having a debate like every week. I could kind of get used to it. Would love to hear in a little bit what some of you guys thought about the debate tonight. I think I was looking at some of the comments in the room a little earlier, just when you guys first started. Yeah, Bernie was kind of giving her the business tonight. I think that Secretary Clinton did a good job of sticking to her points and doing what she needed to do, how she needed to do it. But at the same time, I feel like Senator Sanders definitely came out with the 1-2 punch. That Kissinger, when he hit her on I would not claim Kissinger, that whole line, that was beautiful. Younger folks, if you don't know who Henry Kissinger is, look him up. Older folks, if you need a refresher, look him up. Google is a tool. He is not someone any of us, especially when we're talking about going forward into a new age of how to engage and not be the policeman, not be the bulldog of the world. That is not the person we need advising or inspiring any of our leadership at all. Just wanted to get that out of the way. I really thought overall, I thought that this debate, I thought it was interesting that they were all women for the most part in this debate in terms of the commentators and even the moderators. I kind of feel like to some extent that was kind of, I don't know what you guys think, if that was a little biased or not, but it was interesting. I mean, when they went to, I don't know, because I watched it on my computer, so I don't know how it was when you guys watched on TV, but when they went to, there were 3 women sitting around. I don't really feel like there was any real depth in the commentary. So for me, it's like, yes, great. We have women doing stuff, but let's get people who can really get down to the substance. Like Gwen Ifill, she asked questions that I don't think anyone really asked. She really put them on the spot tonight in a couple of different places, and I was really glad to see that when she asked them about race. But then, white people like to talk very politically correct about race and what we should be doing for people and stuff. But when she asked them about race and let's talk about white people, let's talk about poor white people, I thought it was very interesting when you looked at the difference in the 2 candidates and their responses. Now I live just real briefly by myself. Before I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, I lived in Charleston, West Virginia. I spent 7 years in my adult life living in West Virginia, living in Appalachia. Got to know a lot of different people, and I've met people from the Southern coal fields in West Virginia. So when she's talking about the coal fields and coal families like that, that's all very moving and stuff. But when we really get down to substance and what people really need in these areas, I'm sorry, but Hill is not having it. And when I talk to my friends back in West Virginia, they are definitely feeling the burn. I mean, people, low wage employment, no employment, underemployed, lack of job training. We need more emphasis on green energy and green technology. One of the reasons why we moved from Charleston, West Virginia was due to a chemical spill that tainted our drinking water for my family personally did not use the water for like 4 or 5 months after the fact. The official number given by the state government was about 2 weeks, but we were on bottled water, everything, for approximately 4 to 5 months. And I would go to a friend's house about an hour away to do laundry on the weekends. But one of the huge things with that was it was due to and actually in that case, non-existing regulations for above ground chemical tanks. Sorry to get off track a little bit, but I promise I'm tying it all in. One of the huge issues with that incident, it happened 2 years ago, January 2014, it was the West Virginia water crisis, Elk River chemical spill. One of the huge issues, though, had to do with the stranglehold that industry has on state governments like West Virginia. West Virginia is heavily coal dependent, it's heavily oil and gas dependent. And if the industry didn't want certain environmental regulations, they would kind of dictate to the DEP what should and should not be done. So we saw the result of lax regulations in terms of the poisoning of our drinking water. This was an industrial chemical that was never exposed to a residential, public population in this manner. And they're still trying to study and figure out what the long-term effects will really actually be. So I've lived how big money in politics, how people's donations do actually dictate the decisions that they make and how they endanger people's public health, safety, and welfare in the process. So I agree. And I just want to let everybody know, just in case I'm going on my tangent. I'm sorry, I got in my little flow, my little zone, stream of consciousness. Call in number, just in case you want to call in and holler at us, 857-600-0518. But you know, like when I'm listening to them talk about the differences, you know, Bernie is still hitting it right where he needs to. I know people have criticism about his focus on economics. Economics absolutely matters. Economics of working middle class, of those who have been left out of the job market. That conversation needs to happen because it hasn't been happening. It hasn't been happening in any real consideration since FDR and the New Deal. And it's definitely time for a new deal. So you guys are hilarious in the chat room tonight. But yeah, so let's get into some of the things, you know, some other things with the debate. I'd love to hear what anyone thinks about, you know, keep it balanced, please. One of my personal pet peeves, and I'm not one of those, oh my God, don't criticize Hillary people. I think that balanced criticism, I'm not one of those people who cries if you say something about or you don't like Bernie. But what I like for people to do is be informed about what you're saying, and also, you know, have a well-formed opinion. Don't just regurgitate talking points for either candidate, right? Or if you're calling from the other side of the aisle altogether, please come with me as something better than, you know, they're going to destroy the country. Because you know what? All this foot stomping and the refusing to do anything. I'm a federal employee. I remember Ted Cruz's hissy fit that led to a government shutdown, and everybody can say, oh yeah, well, you guys got your back pay. But yeah, but those 2.5 weeks where we didn't know whether or not we were going to get paid, because ultimately that's up to Congress to vote on and decide on, and the way they act is ridiculous. You know, that's stressful and it's unnecessary. And the funny thing is when Congress, all those hissy fits and we're going to shut this down, they still get paid. So we definitely need a political revolution in this country. You haven't had anything that ridiculous since Newt had his little meltdown back in the 90s. So we really need a political revolution. We really need to send a message to those people sitting, not just in Congress in DC, but in our state houses across the country, to our governors, that we mean business, that when people say we're going to take back our country, no, seriously, we really are, because it's for the people, by the people, and this is what we are here to do. So, yeah, but I think that I see a good point here about at one point Hill was dismissive of the question in terms of healthcare and the insurance industry. And I think the fact that she was kind of stressing that if we got rid of the ACA, we would not have the insurance industry. And I'm kind of thinking, like, for me, I was kind of thinking like, okay, so you say like your donations don't really matter, and your determinations and how you're making decisions, but here you are worrying about the insurance industry and not the millions of Americans who, yeah, they might have insurance now, but they can't really afford using the benefits under their policies, because it's more like, you know, emergency care only type insurance, like, you know, it's high premiums, high co-pays, when your deductible is sky high, when it's cheaper to pay out of pocket for care than pay your deductible. I mean, we have a serious issue. You know, I mean, everyone in federal, when it's fascinating when particularly on the federal level, when you have people who want to argue about healthcare, because the care that they receive in Congress, right, and across the federal government is far superior to pretty much what everyone else receives in the rest of the country. So when everyone's trying to convince you that what you have is good enough, but theirs is way better, you got to kind of give them a side eye and do your due diligence and look it up. I do also want to just touch on something I saw real quickly. Someone said, don't worry, like FDR did to the Japanese what Trump is talking about doing to the Muslims. I think that we need to not be so nitpicky. You know, obviously when Bernie says he admires FDR, he's not saying I want to go put people in internment camps. Like, that's not even, or that's not even in the jargon. That's not in the plan. That's not even the realm possibility. You can look at some good aspects. I mean, it is very clear when he talks about FDR, he's talking about the economic policies, because arguably, you know, the policies of the New Deal actually left out people of color in general, right? So when he's talking about New Deal-esque policies, I mean, it's just the theory that we need that type of stuff, not okay, we have a caller. Bryce from Philly is on the line.